involved.
All right, I'm starting to see some folks coming back in, and we'll get rolling.
Balaji, I got some of those automated blinds you demonstrated, and they're awesome. Nothing like telling Alexa to close your blinds.
I mean, if that's my biggest contribution, Steve, I think I have more to give.
You've given so much more.
It better have some AI, so that it actually has some vision that when it sees sun on your face, it automatically comes down. It's not difficult at all to get there.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
You mind sharing the product name on that? I've actually need some for my porch. I hate to ask.
What was the one that you got, Balaji? You had a...
I don't know. It came with the house, but it is not a big tech. It is easily available on Amazon.
Yeah.
It is like the easiest product to get.
I think
expensive though, right? Pretty expensive. I've got a large surface area, so
it wasn't too bad.
Help us, John Healy. We're talking about blinds.
And we're not even playing poker, so let's do something better.
There you go. I love it, man. It's great.
I am quite blind. That's all I know.
I know, right? Me too, John. Me too.
Good stuff. Well, if we've got some folks who are new to the call or who haven't been with us for a while, pop your hand up on the screen, and Brandon will call out to you and give us a kind of a 30-second intro of who you are, what got you here.
Kirsten, we're gonna let you go first because you're sort of new here.
Absolutely. I thought maybe I could like hide in the background and just slowly get back into things, but here we go. This is the energy of the call I love. Hi to everybody. Really quickly, 30 seconds. I was very much engaged and a big advocate for the Center of Transformation of Work. I'm still getting used to that name because I was used to it when it was just Open Assembly. And have spent the last little while actually transitioning from a big corporate role to building out an independent practice with my partner, who's also here, Derek Last, focusing on people and change and implementing employer brands and new kind of culture programs for work. So great to be back and look forward to more discussion.
I just have to say, Kirsten, is a strategist, a really great brand strategist. As a background, and so a lot of her big thoughts about this community and this marketplace and what we were going to become all had the seeds in Kirsten's brain. So still so grateful for your participation and super psyched you're back in the conversation.
Thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to being here and engaged.
All right, welcome, Melissa.
Great. A second call. I'm so happy to be here. I've already met some people offline, which is really fun. And I am Melissa Lieberman. I was a founder at IQ Navigator. So I've been in the industry for a long time. And my current focus is I am a business coach for independent consultants. So I help them grow their business, increase their income, really learn how to run a business. They're really good at consulting, but not maybe so much on the business side. So that's what I focus on. And I have a podcast called Grow Your Independent Consulting Business.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Very good.
I think there was someone who just messaged me that wanted to say hello. Una?
Thanks, Brandon. Hi, everyone. My name is Una Herlihy. I'm dialing in from the sunny southeast of Ireland, a really nice place called Kilkenny. I recognize a few people here like Rich and Elina, and I've just met Catherine, but this is my first call. I run the Indie List in Ireland. The Indie List started off as an idea in a hammock in my back garden during the first lockdown. I'm sure there was a beer involved as well, because I was really inspired by what was going on the front line and I wanted to help out. And I put a post up on LinkedIn offering to help freelancers in my sector, which was advertising and communications. and I wanted to offer my access to my network and help freelancers find work. Because we were all like in the same boat. Work had fallen off a cliff. It was a pretty scary place. And I couldn't believe the reaction. I woke up the next day and I thought, oh my God, what have I done? I've offered to help and now I have to. And so it was funny things flowing to Una. So it started off as a genuine desire to help people, and the reaction was so huge that myself and my business partner Peter decided we were going to turn it from a pro bono initiative into a business. I think I said to Peter, this is probably a really bad idea. We're probably going to drive each other crazy. We'll probably make no money. And he said, okay, enough of the hard sell, I'm in. So 2 and a bit years on, we've got about 1,100 freelancers signed up. We call ourselves a very kind of low tech, high touch platform. That's not to say technology doesn't play a role in what we do and how we operate. It very much does, and it needs to play a bigger role as we continue to scale. But our USP is very much about really trying to understand what the client requirement is, and then selecting from our community the people who have the right talent and experience for that role, but also have the right kind of mindset. So I'm really delighted to be here, and thank you so much for the warm welcome.
All right, Derek.
Thank you. I got a nice "you're next" message, so that's always good. Hi everyone, really excited to be here. Have heard about this community for a long while. I've interacted with John on a previous Clubhouse thing that we did a while back.
Long time.
So really happy to be here. Pardon me?
Is Clubhouse still around?
I don't know.
I don't follow you, love Clubhouse so much.
Yeah.
I was there every day, even if it was just by myself. And now it's still by myself. So it worked out great.
Yeah. Well, it was a fun time while it lasted. So yeah, as Kirsten kind of teed up, business partners with her on a new venture that we're putting together around workplace experience and all of those sorts of things, really focused on enacting purpose inside of organizations, and importantly, connecting strategy and purpose to people's experience of work. Past life, worked in brand strategy, innovation design, management consulting, corporate strategy, things of that nature. A real emphasis being placed on making strategy real, and importantly, allowing people to participate in making it real inside of their organizations. So that's a bit about me. Nice to meet everyone.
Welcome. I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly. Usabi. You're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, thanks for letting me. I knew it was going to be me when you said I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly. Well, thanks a lot for having me. I mean, we got in touch with you guys through Jonathan Younger. And so very happy to be here. Very interesting to see what all you guys are doing. I'm founder and CEO of Outbice, which is a business technology marketplace based in Barcelona. We're serving the EMEA market. Main markets are Germany, Europe, Spain, and Middle East and Africa. And the story here is, we started the company in 2016, and I was working as a management consultant in the Middle East, based in Dubai, and then in Johannesburg, traveling to tons and tons of countries. And finally, after this journey, we went back home to Barcelona as a family, and I reconnected with former colleagues of mine from an old management consulting firm that we used to work internet related, mainly in Germany and the UK. So we were talking about the industry, and we said, look, increasingly what's happening is that large clients are more and more unhappy about the value of consulting firms. They really need to engage with people that know the stuff, that have done certain things before. That on one hand. On the other hand, with the fast-paced technology changes, real experience is not anymore in certain companies. It's people that have done the projects. So we put 2 and 2 together, and we said, okay, let's start a marketplace with experts around telecoms that became telecom, media, and technology, which is the acronym for the sector. And yeah, we're now focusing formally on what we call business technology. So yeah, here we are. We are a team of 28 all in all, and very happy to be in this game.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm a second time back person. Melissa inspired me to speak up because we spoke off platform, and I find this group really inspirational. I come away with so many great ideas and new contacts, but my company is called Results Resourcing, and I feel that I am empowered to empower others to do their best work. And we're particularly focused on small businesses. We're a job platform, but we're also recruiters. So our objective with the platform was integrating access to human beings at the right time. So small businesses who need the most help get it. So I heard someone mentioning building a job description, getting matched with the right freelancer from a business skills, tool skills, or a work style standpoint. And that's what we're really focused on doing. So we launched our platform in 2017 and going strong. So I'm really happy to be joining this group and coming away inspired every 2 weeks. Thank you.
Excellent.
All right.
Good. Well, I know we've got some fun stuff that we're going to walk through, and Tim Sanders is going to get us into some detail. But before we did that, I just wanted to open up. I think, Elina, are you on the line with us? Elina Jutelyte?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. I hope I did. We've got some fun stuff that we're going to walk through, and Tim Sanders is going to get us into some detail. But before we did that, I just wanted to open up. I think, Elina, are you on the line with us? Elina Jutelyte?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. I hope I did well with my enunciation of your last name. But we've referenced on the last couple calls Freelancer Business Month coming up, and a lot of folks from this community are going to be engaged in different ways. And this is Elina's event that she puts together. And we wanted to just give her a few minutes to make sure you guys are all aware and have the opportunity to drop in as we get started through the month of October.
Oh, wow. Thanks a lot, John. It's a big privilege actually to speak in front of so many intelligent people. I feel a bit nervous right now because you by far has so much more experience than I do. But before I go into introduction of the Freelance Business Month, let me say just a few words about the freelance business community that I'm running. And my colleague Sylvia is actually here too. She's our marketing director and doing an amazing thing. Well, as many businesses, the community started as a personal need and idea to connect with freelancers. And that is how it started in 2018 when we launched the first edition of a conference here in Belgium. But intention and aspiration was always to build something bigger than that. By my core business, I'm event producer and I work across borders. So Belgium was a little bit tight and I wanted to have a community which is global. And that we can share with each other, we can find jobs and help each other with our business. So by its core, the community is freelance-based. But as time develops and we grew into what we are now, we have actually defined 3 pillars of or categories of representatives of the ecosystem that we are targeting with our events, publications, and content. And freelancers is the first one, as I mentioned. The second one, and please help me with terminology if I'm saying it wrong, we call them job givers, or those who are providing jobs to freelancers, or those who are hiring freelancers, be it a corporate or small, medium enterprise, or even freelance outsourcing the work to another freelancer. And the third category is actually companies who are targeting freelancers with their product and services. Platforms, for example, many of you are representatives of platforms, banks, leasing companies, insurances, anyone who is selling something to a freelancer is our third category. And what our mission is stimulate the economy as much as we can, freelance economy, I mean, so that all these 3 groups can collaborate with each other, learn from each other, improve the business, and specifically, of course, freelancers, so that they don't feel lonely, that they feel inspired, motivated, and that they know how to do things in a better way. And so let me tell you a bit more about our key initiative, which I call Small Big Thing, which is Freelance Business Month. It's our key initiative, actually. We do many things, And thanks to our partnerships with, actually, I see some of our partners here, we are able to do amazing things for the community in general and for the ecosystem as a whole. But freelance business is our biggest initiative. And actually, I'll tell a little bit more what are we cooking with Open Assembly, or Center for Transformation of Work. So this event was possible, and it's our third edition actually, was possible thanks to our partners. Some of them are here. Una, nice to see you. Why, for God's sake, it's called a month? Well, for the purpose that, who would ever think of creating a month-long event? The idea was that we want to cover as much content as possible. And if we look at the people or categories who are joining us, it was clear enough that one day or 1 week will not be enough. We needed to create something massive, first of all, to cater to all those audiences, and secondly, to create a bigger impact and to be recognizable. We are on a mission to build a Web Summit kind of event for the industry. The event runs on event platform, and we are super crazy about the data that comes out of it. We monitor every single interaction. We know how much time is spent on the platform, how much connections are made, what sort of sessions been watched, and so forth and so on. And last year, this is the data from last year. Last year, we had 2,400 attendees, and we're hoping to get even more this year, above 3,000, I hope. So that is across entire month. Very shortly about the program, and this is another reason why the event is so long, is because it has 5 different events actually within, 5 different programs within the month. We start with very inspirational opening and looking into the future of freelancing. We'll have actually John joining this opening event remotely, so I'm really looking forward to that. And we have Hosby participating, and a couple of other speakers. The program is available online. I'm not going to go too much into details for each of the chapters here. 2 other weeks are focusing specifically on freelancers, helping them to start their business or to continue if they're already advanced. A very special week, which is called European Freelance Week, run in partnership with Co-working Assembly, and they are curating European Freelance Week, which aim is to bring policymakers into a dialogue and talk about rights for freelancers in Europe. These are, of course, baby steps at the moment, but we hope we can achieve a significant influence and somehow bring about change for the situation for freelancers in Europe. I know there are similar initiatives probably in the US as well. And lastly, our fifth week, the last week, is focusing on future of work. And that is how Open Assembly and Center for the Transformation of Work comes into play, because I was very happy that the team has agreed to collaborate with us and create the program for this specific week, which is focusing mostly on businesses who are hiring freelancers, if that's how I need to say it. I'll let Barry or Eleanor to say a few words about that particular week. But very quickly to conclude, let me thank once again our sponsors who are supporting these initiatives. We run all our activities for community for free. This event to attend is also for free, and we highly dependable on the funds that we generate throughout the year. So if any one of you is interested to support this great purpose, then please reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss any potential collaboration that we can form. I would be very, very happy. So that's very shortly. Not going to take lots of time from Tim's presentation. If Barry, you would like to add a few words about the program that your team is putting together, or Eleanor, please feel free.
I think, and Eleanor, why don't you just go through what we are planning? But I would just say I was at the event last year. I spoke at the event last year. It's absolutely awesome. Elina does a brilliant job. So if anyone's thinking about it, do sign up. You're going to learn more about the industry there. by attending those sessions and in so many other forums. It's she puts on a brilliant show, so please do show up. But yeah, Eleanor's been orchestrating what we're doing.
Yeah, so really looking forward to the event, Elina. It's very exciting. What we've done over the 4 days, for the first 4 days of the week, we have gone for a different theme each day so that people can kind of, if they've got a specific area of focus, they can join all of the sessions on a day. So the first day, on the Monday, we're talking about open talent, use of open talent platforms, from the freelancer and from the user point of view. On the second day, we're talking much more about open innovation and the roles that freelancers play in that open innovation space. On Wednesday, we're moving on to enterprise and how the enterprises are making use of freelancers, creating these blended workforces. And on the Thursday, we're talking about freelancers and society. So how freelancing is contributing in different areas of society to different communities, and how those communities are contributing as freelancers back to the businesses they serve. And then on Friday, we plan to high five, drink champagne, and walk away with joy in our hearts.
There we go. That's a good sales pitch to wrap it up.
I've said better, but like Barry said, indeed, it's a great opportunity to learn about industry in general, because it's the only event, and I'm not bragging myself, that actually has such a broad overview of everything that happens around freelancing. And we're very proud of that work. So please do come and join us. We'd be happy to see you all.
Excellent. Hey, it just kind of strikes me as we go through this. One of the really important things that we do as a community is try to help amplify the messages of what each of you are doing in the marketplace and get that out there. Brandon, if you could just maybe show some of the messaging we've been using on the website. You know, if you've got a story, these messages that we've been putting out, you'll see them on the CTW homepage, have come from different people that you'll see on the call who have just kind of shared why they come and participate in the community, what it's meant to them or to their business along the way. If you've got a message that you'd like to share, if we can help amplify that, send a note to Brandon or I. We'll make sure to put something together and make it nice and easy so that we can get it out there and help, I guess, give some added visibility to you and your organization for the work that you're doing for the freelance community. So just a note of thanks for everyone who has engaged, and a note of encouragement for those who are on the call who would like to engage going forward. All right. With that, I think Chuck Hamilton called out that we needed to address Tim Sanders for bringing the brightest shirt into the call today. So we'll do that. And with that, Tim, you get the floor. Like we're just going to turn it over to whoever's got the brightest shirt on to tell us some story. But actually, I think John and Barry, you were at the Upwork event and kind of came out of this really fired up about kind of sharing that story. So before we hand it to Tim, is there anything you wanted to kind of put an emphasis on as we go into this?
Yeah, I would love to. You know, Tim, you know, has been so great. We had this conversation going for a long time, and he's come up with this idea of a great redesign. And I love that he gave a great speech at the Upwork event, the Work Without Limits event. But I think that's where we are. You know, this idea of we're building these marketplaces, we're building the momentum. We have all this great research from places like the lab at Harvard, and it's really helping companies do that organizational change, that change management, to really redesign the way work happens. And I was super impressed with Tim's thoughts and his leadership at the event, and super psyched for him to share this today. So Barry, I don't know if you have any other insights. And both Barry and I were at the event. It was actually Tim was a fantastic event, and really thought, you know, I was there a couple of years ago, the last time it was live. It was really great to see the progress and the emphasis. It felt like in 2019, it was all about, hey guys, you know, this whole world of open talent is going to be important. And this one was like, it's happening. This is what you need to do. Here's how you need to do it. And a lot of that was your talk about work redesign. Barry?
Yeah, and it was great to hear from Upwork's clients and see some of the freelancers too. I thought Upwork put on an amazing event. And as much as people enjoyed Scott Galloway's provocative keynote, I preferred Tim's. It was much slicker, much better presenter. So I don't want to spend any more time talking about it, because I want you to introduce you to Tim, because Tim blew us away. So, and I should say the evening was brilliant, by the way, as well. It was like an Ibiza dance party. There were violin playing DJs and acrobats and stuff. It was awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you both, John, Barry, thanks a lot. You know, my favorite presentation at Work Without Limits was Jonah Berger's presentation. It was the last keynote.
Awesome.
He's a Wharton professor. I believe he's the youngest tenured professor at Wharton. He wrote a book recently called Catalyst, and I just recommend it for everybody on the call. And it's about how to change people's minds, right? So we're all kind of in that business. And I know you guys weren't expecting me to present Jonah's thing, but I just think it's very important. Jonah surprises us to understand that a catalyst isn't a highly charismatic person that brings the thunder and lightning and everybody, you know, changes their mind. The catalyst, in fact, creates viscosity. And the analogy he used is that you can push a chair across the stage. That's why we like chairs, but you can't push a person without them pushing back. So his argument is that to truly be a catalyst, what we've got to do is we've got to help, in this case, business users find a way to release the parking brake when it comes to using open talent. We got to figure out those barriers, if you will, that we have to overcome first. And we've got to shorten the distance between where they're comfortable and where we want them to be. And I just think it's such a good book. There's such tremendous research in that book. So before I talk about my thing, I just want to say that was my highlight of the event. And the fact that he actually showed up, because he literally got there 30 minutes before go time, and we were freaking out. Eric Gilpin, our CRO, was planning on doing a live demo of the platform if Jonah didn't make it. Anyway, about this time last year, I was having some conversations with a lot of, I'll be transparent here, a lot of private equity people. I'm recently become the chairperson of Private Equity International. And for those of you, this is a really important opportunity for all of us, because private equity backed organizations are largely mid-market. They're what I like to call pre-procurement. They are ripe for work innovation because their charter is to generate more velocity of work, meaning increase the cadence of go-to-market, faster product launch, cadences, faster territorial expansions, faster process improvements. Digital transformation is like the gadget play for private equity firms seeking alpha. And so this time last year, what became very clear to me is that especially for that mid-market tech-enabled company, there's been so much disruption since 2020. Redesigning how we deliver the work would just be an incremental change. And when you look back at history, and I like to study, and I talked about this a few weeks ago, if you study like other industries, like let's look at Adobe and what Shantanu Nayarine did in 2008, burns the boats on a business model around licensed software. And you have to think about all the resistance there must have been inside and outside the company around Adobe moving to a subscription cloud-based model. He picked the perfect time. He picked the Great Recession when there were layers and layers of disruption. So what occurred to us last year is that for so many companies, they have this generational, or what I would say a once in career opportunity in the midst of all this disruption to rethink the work, to rethink where the work is done, to rethink how the work is done. And then finally, building upon all of these experiences, rethink who does the work and quote, what's their deal with the enterprise. And I read a lot. My wife calls me Sheldon Cooper. If you watch Big Bang Theory, you know what that is. It's like I'm one of those guys that likes to geek out, and I geek out on the history of work. James Sussman wrote a really interesting but very long book called Work. And I love a quote from this. He talked about the idea that the word work was first notably employed by Gaspard Gustave de Coriolis, a 19th century mathematician and scientist who was obsessed with the game of billiards. And he used the word work to describe the force that was required to move a ball in the right direction to the right destination. I think that's why today we use the phrase workforce. My argument is that work has never been about classification. We shouldn't conflate workforce with full-time employment. It's not the same thing. A workforce is the force that we put together through a variety of means to move the ball from here to there. Getting back to this idea of how a lot of companies create value to get products to market, to get process improvements stood up, to expand a business either through territory or through adjacent markets. So what I suggested at WWL is that we have this great opportunity to update parts of the work that are outdated. So for example, the idea that work is a place is extremely outdated in the face of what we've learned working remotely from COVID, right? The office is a tool that's used for conscious collaboration, team building, and other such work. We've learned now that work is an outcome, and that's why remote work has been such an important thing to consider. So what I talked about was the idea that there are a variety of different workplace models. You hear about them all. Like at Upwork, we're remote first, and we're not the first. I mean, for those of you that have studied remote, my gosh, Basecamp has been remote first forever. There's a great book by Aaron Dignan called Brave New Work. His company, The Ready, has been remote from the day they were founded. They were a consultancy, and they created remote offices based on where their major clients were located. So remote first is becoming a popular model because obviously it expands the talent pool to a global talent pool, and also can help attract some talent that prefers to work from anywhere. There's remote friendly, which I've seen a lot of organizations adopt, say for the right role they can't fill or the right talent they can't miss out on. There's remote for now, which is a lot of the clients we talk to. They're remote for now. Some of them just can't wait to get back in the office. Some of them love where it is. There's hybrid by role. So for example, you see organizations that might require junior salespeople to come to the office to create the boiler room environment, to overcome call reluctance. In other situations, you might see IT, facilities professionals, or in fast growing categories we're doing business in, like healthcare providers, like a hospital. Obviously, providers are going to be at the hospital, but a lot of the knowledge workers, say for community support, back office, marketing, et cetera, they're going to start working remote. Then there's hybrid by day mix, which is a very interesting but hard to figure out model. While it does provide flexibility, it doesn't solve for creating a global talent pool. And then there's on-site first, or the Jamie Dimon, Reid Hoffman, Elon Musk, boomer white guys like me, Dominion model of bringing everybody back in. My argument here is that every organization should find a place for remote friendly. So our argument wasn't that remote first was the only option. That's just one we've chosen. It works great for us. We're a knowledge work company. But remote friendly is critical for an organization to remain competitive. And then I talked a little bit about questions an organization should ask themselves as they figure out how to redesign the where we work. For example, are you satisfied with the talent pockets that are in the locations where you have buildings? And if you are satisfied, are you 100% sure that a remote first company is not going to enter that local market with a better offer? So anyway, that's the foundation, I believe, for making a move to open talent. And here's why. In our 2020 Future Workforce Report, our fall Pulse report, we reported that managers who had become comfortable leading remote full-time teams during COVID had also become comfortable relying on freelancers for key project assignments. And it's because when you get really adept at remote work leadership, what happens is you develop that mental muscle of learning to lead based on outcomes. And that's a huge unlock, because when you can lead based on outcomes, well, then it's easier for you to work with freelancers because you're not leading by attendance. You're not leading by the traditional attitude and aptitude and altitude and all those other silly ideas. You're leading based on outcomes. So the second idea was that we have to reimagine how the work is done. And what I talk about there really is two things. Thing number one is that we're seeing a lot of burnout. So I talked a little bit about the idea that when we look at things like the Great Resignation, what we really see is an increase in workload. There's a lot of triggers for the Great Resignation, but based on the research I've seen, I truly believe the number one driver of the Great Resignation amongst knowledge workers is the increase in workload, which has exponentially increased their stress. The equilibrium suggests it's a 4x increase, doubles their chance of burnout. So what I talked about is the idea that open talent, independent talent as we call it, creates a load management opportunity. Load management has been around since the 1960s in energy grid management. So they used to use it to keep different parts of the country online. And then, of course, it's been very popular in professional sports. You see it a lot in the NBA where they load manage their talent. So they're less likely to be injured or burnt out when it comes time for the playoffs. What we've seen at Upwork are a range of clients like Flexera, the business service provider, like the Professional Golf Association, PGA, like ESPN, that have been using Upwork credits they've given to their contributors to, quote, buy a buddy, meaning to go find help, to help them work on their deliverables. Say if you were a developer, so that all you focus on is writing code. So GitHub depository management can be out there. Somebody can do the explainer videos you're expected to make, or the code documentation, et cetera. And that dramatically reduces burnout by design. The other thing I talked about was the project economy. Later, when I finish, I want to put a link in the chat here for a wonderful article by former chairman of Project Management Institute around the idea that projects are how companies implement change. It's producing the most value for any organization, much more than operational roles, which just sustain the status quo. It's $12 trillion in global GDP by 2025. But what they report is that 2 out of 3 projects fail. And they fail because they can't solve for their number one dependency, and that is someone to deliver the work. The reason why that's the case is because the project canvas is not designed correctly. In other words, when we start a project, we actually think the favor economy, often referred to as the matrix, often referred to as one company, one team. We actually think people with full-time operational roles can contribute to our projects becoming successful. Organizations really don't staff much for actual full-time project leaders, project work deliverers. And as a result, 2 out of 3 of these projects fail. And as I've learned from private equity in the mid-market, 80% of all product launches don't happen as scheduled. So the argument here is that what we're seeing in this particular open talent economy are organizations changing the structure of projects so that at the very beginning of a project or a program's life, from the moment it's conceived and funded, they, and Paul Estish, you're on the call, so I'm going to give you a hat tip, they've learned how to taskify that deliverable. And at the beginning of the project lifecycle, ask the question, can we open talent it, or what I call skill source it? Can we skill source it, or can we automate it? And the only thing that gets delegated to operational role players is what's left or what's proprietary. When you do it that way, what we've learned with companies like GE, Genius Link, I mentioned Flexera before, is you get a 50% increase in the velocity of delivering, and you get a dramatic increase in the ability to deliver on time. So the idea here is that you use open talent to design projects in such a way as you are guaranteeing on-time delivery by using platforms that provide open talent. And as we talk to customers all the time, we ask them, like, what would you pay to run your trains on time in the organization? And the answer is, you'd be surprised. They'd usually pay what many people would consider the slight increase in costs sometimes from working with on-demand talent. The last thing I talked about was that once you get really good at, remote work and project redesign, it's time to redesign the nature of the deal you have with your talent, meaning it's time to really make that move from talent acquisition as a design model, full-time first, to talent access as an evolved model, what I call fractional first. I talked about the idea that organizations, especially on the left coast, that are high performance organizations, not just FANG, but that whole second layer, they've all learned to challenge the job rec. So I consider talent acquisition the last part of the business world where it's artisanal, where we have guest TEs and we have not properly scoped how much time they'll spend on task every week. Because when organizations do that, they find often that they're better off to hire fractional, take a long look at that talent, let the billings tell the story, and then move them into full-time or define that as a full-time role. And this is the last thing I'll say. When you do that, and when you move to a fractional first model, and I don't mean replacing existing FTs, I mean on how you grow forward, you have this opportunity to avoid what Larry Page famously called headcount creep back in 2009, the way a young plucky company like Dell grows into a bloated company like IBM. This becomes the new model. So the modern model of talent access allows you to use real science, to use fractional talent, to actually have more people working on your problem for every dollar you spend trying to get the work delivered. You have a more agile, smaller core that gives you the ability to pivot when it's time, because all strategy must follow structure. It's not about an organization being mentally agile. It's about variable cost structure. But what I want to leave you with is the idea that when you build this talent cloud and you build it based on the science of billings, in many situations, you're going to get a buy one, get one free when it comes to spending $1 on talent, when it comes to how many people you have working on your problem. One of the most popular things I heard at WWL was the question and the answer: would you rather have an A player 8 hours a week or a B- player every single day of the week? And the answer was pretty resounding. The difference between an A+ programmer and a B- programmer is not 10 to 20 to 30%. It's triple digits of percent. So I think what people are really becoming aware of is we've entered this world where through design thinking, you have an opportunity to dramatically increase your chance of getting that ball in the pocket and using what we do to turn money into results, because that ain't the way it's been done for a long time.
Balaji, you had your hand up. Being so polite, I'm still a little uncomfortable with that. So we got to figure out what's going on there.
I mean, Tim's presentation skills are so strong that you have to let him finish his train of thought, and it's and I love the way he ends it as well. So it's worth waiting for. Tim, I think you, as you were talking about it almost in the last couple of minutes, you said the ability to apply multiple people to the job that one person was doing is critical for efficiency. And I think, you know, since we started this whole community, that's been the fundamental gap in the methodology or the algorithm, that how do you actually take a job and break it up into multiple and show an economic model or use case to say, sample A, traditional, this is how it works. Sample B, you now have X number of people doing the same job. And then these are the fundamental cost reduction that you can see. And then also you can run this at scale. Now you can have 100 FTEs versus 1,000 freelancers, and it works at scale. This concept has been around for a while. I haven't seen I have as yet seen zero proof that it actually works outside of anecdotes. Yeah. You have all the scale to see this probably in action. Have you thought about actually communicating that to everybody, saying this is the scaled model of it? And I think the market is really thirsting for that.
Yeah, good point. So lots of answers here. First answer, and I always love your questions. I think I even DM'd you. You and I need to spend more time together. First of all, we think less about the job and more about the project, or really the program. We're moving kind of upstream to more program work these days, right? So we try to work with the center of excellence leader. If it's a marketing program, that's the CMO or the VP of marketing, or as high up as you can get, depending on the size of the enterprise. And we start with the deliverable, because the deliverable is much easier to taskify than to take a job role and break it into discrete parts. What we've done more effectively, and then I'll tell you why we don't talk about it more publicly. What we've done more effectively with mid-market companies is to work with to create an alliance between FP&A and finance and the leader of talent acquisition, or the CHRO. And that alliance, it puts the science around the hiring and headcount budgeting, right? So when you're going to budget for a headcount and Tim says, I need a new director of client strategy research, then the finance requirement will no longer be lifetime value versus cost of acquisition, right? Because that's generally kind of how they look at adding headcount in most organizations like this. Now the idea is, can the manager who's requested headcount prove the scope of 30 hours on task for that role in a given week? That leaves whatever, 10 hours for team meetings and administrative work. And how can that be demonstrated? And if you can't prove the on task, then the role is immediately moved from headcount to OpEx as a fractional hire. And that's been really effective in helping us unlock a lot of mid-market organizations. And there are some larger organizations, even Google, for example, that have been very judicious about that in certain divisions, like the development of the knowledge graph. And so that's what we found to be the most successful. Why don't we talk about it more? Well, a lot of organizations are really itchy about letting people like us go talk about transformation of work that could be perceived as a replacement for full-time talent. Even though I think that's
within your own company, Tim, then like,
oh, we
you
do.
have a large enough organization, why don't you publish your own results for your own work?
We do. As a matter of fact, I'd be happy on the next call to share some of the things we've developed to show the metrics of that. You know, really to show that, you know, the idea of exactly what our full-time workforce is and what our talent innovation workforce is, and what the billings are for the talent or innovation organization, that have pretty much one-to-one replaced the traditional job rec, but in fact, they're doing anywhere from 12 to say 24 hours of work per week on bill. And that shows the efficiency of a model like that. So yeah, we're starting to talk a lot more about that. It started over in IR, and now we're learning to kind of take a page from Salesforce and do more Upwork on Upwork. And we've been needing to do that. I think it's a pre-Hayden thing. So Hayden was really open to talking about how we do it and exactly what our workforce composition looks like. Our leadership prior to that, for whatever reason, felt like it was, you know, maybe a trade secret or something. So very good point. We could talk about it more than we can talk about, say, what Google does. But we're ramping up customer advocacy next year, to your point, to provide more back of the envelope economics here, not just the conceptual stuff like companies say, oh, I was trying to stand up an e-commerce program and Upwork helped us. Well, what people, especially private equity, what they really need to know, how much more did it cost, or how much less did it cost? What were the externalities that you might have faced in horizontal turnover around those projects that became largely populated? I'm sure these are a lot of the questions your clients ask you too. Private equity asks them the differences. They write down all the answers in real time. So I appreciate that's a really good point. Yeah. And I do want to talk to you more offline. I think you and I could do some good stuff together and share more between each other.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I think, Balaji, you fit on what's one of the biggest challenges in the industry, right? Is taskification, and what's the operating system for using marketplaces. We're doing some really interesting stuff with some of our clients now at the workforce management level, where they say, so demand comes in, what should I use, or what should go internally to FTEs? Excuse me, what should go to our MSP? What might be outsourced? And then what should go to marketplaces based on a set of rules? And typically that it's task and activity based, that it's short term, that it's remote, etc. And so we're putting in place a set of rules around when to use marketplaces, which I think is repeatable, and we could use multiple organizations. And the other thing we're doing that that Bryn and John and I are working on at the moment, John Healy, is designing for one of our clients. We're calling it a factory cloud model, and we're doing it with Upwork. And so we're doing it for UAT is the first use case. So demand comes in for user acceptance testing. Somebody at the client is responsible for it. They've always got a center of excellence. And then we'll find fractional freelancers who've been pre-approved, pre-screened, taught the methodology. And then we'll use them on a fractional basis. And there might be an architect and a head of testing who's long-term, but then we'll use people for hours at a time or days at a time across multiple clients in a UAT talent cloud. And that's a really good way of using marketplaces at scale. It's repeatable for Oracle, for SAP, for whatever. You know, you can imagine multiple talent clouds. And that's a really good way of getting people's, you know, enterprise buyers' brains around, oh, how can I use marketplaces differently? Not thinking about roles or jobs, thinking about tasks, activities, and projects, as Tim described earlier. So, but it's a challenge to get enterprises around thinking differently.
Steve King, did I see you wanted to add something into that?
I know it's late. Quick question. Tim, you talked about PE firms in the mid-market. Is that because they're always trying to transform companies and change companies? Is that what makes that so attractive?
Yeah, private equity's moved from, you know, pricing and arbitrage, you know, a la the movie Wall Street, to a new model of buy and improve, but more recently buy and modernize. That's the motion now. So there's just not enough deals out there where you can manipulate pricing or the C-suite. So now as a PE firm, you got to come in and you actually have to improve the model. So generally that means modernization. So things like digital transformation, or what I just see is increasing the velocity of product releases, because they call that the real innovation index. How much revenue did you generate in the last year from products you released in the last 2 years? So if that becomes the laser focus of the new generation of PE operating partners, who, by the way, are in their 40s, not their 60s, that's kind of important. They're really open to anything. Like, for example, they see Upwork, at least in our experience, we work with hundreds and hundreds, well, I'll say several hundred PE-backed firms now. They see us as just like the next wave of AWS. They're like, oh, we went through this a decade ago with AWS. That was a huge opportunity for us to cloud migrate a lot of our portcos and others. Things. Oh, same thing. We're going to go after talent acquisition. It's an antiquated model. We're going to help them adopt talent access, and it helps drive all their value creation plans. So that's why it's been such a huge growth engine inside of Upwork Enterprise in the last couple of years.
Interesting. They're, you know, a lot of the big PE firms have their cookbooks for change. Has any of the big firms or any of the firms built this into their cookbooks that you know of?
Yeah, Insight Partners is one you could kind of look at as a model where they've operationalized it. I know we're at time. Let me just say one thing that's important. Go Google Harvard Business School Value Creation Plan Study. HBS did a study on value creation plans amongst all the major PE firms. You know what they learned? They're all the same. None of them were indicative of actual alpha. What they learned, though, is the one thing that predicted that a company was going to get their money back on an investment was the execution by the portco. So the implication is anything you do to help a PE firm's plan be executed in the market is going to help them reach their alpha investment returns. And I think that is really a good opportunity for open talent, because we help execution happen.
I think we got a mic drop at the end of that, Tim. So just a note of thanks for sharing there. Again, a point of emphasis that, you know, I think, Balaji, to your point, these case studies, these examples, moving from anecdotes into actual outcomes is something that we're always on the hunt for. So, you know, for everyone here who's engaged in this marketplace in whatever way you are engaged in it, as you see positive examples with true outcomes and people willing to tell the stories, let us know. We'd love to get them onto the call, share the story, share the real results versus the anecdotes anytime that's possible. So just a note of thanks for everyone for being on the call. John Windsor, I'd be remiss if I didn't give you a chance to wrap us up.
No, that was awesome. You know, Tim, you always bring the goods. Love it. And great to hear what's going on in your head and where things are going. I think that's a great example of, you know, the real innovations happening at the edge, and edges, the private equity firms, and what they demand is going to, we'll see throughout the whole market. So thanks again. Really great. Love you guys. Look forward to seeing you guys in a couple of weeks.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks.